Many thanks for joining us on Business Incorporated. I am Bisi Adebayo. Coming up on the show today, UK-EU Brexit trade talks continue ahead of likely deal. UK bans travel from South Africa over COVID-19 variant. And an assessment of the economic impact of the decline in the rate of Christmas hampers and decorations in Nigeria. But let's begin the show right away with market numbers, which appear to be in high spirits at intraday. South Africa's GSE rose 0.32%, while Nigeria's main index was up 0.02%. In Egypt, the EGX 30 was also higher by 0.32%. Kenya closed positive on Wednesday. And it's a different picture in the Middle East, where sentiments were mixed on Christmas Eve. In the UAE, while Dubai's main index advanced 0.64%, the Abu Dhabi index declined 0.32%. And elsewhere in the region, the Qatari index rose 0.32%, while Saudi Arabia's index lost 0.19%. And in Europe, stocks traded higher in a light trading session today as traders grew optimistic that a Brexit trade deal will be reached. The FTSE 100 rose 0.07%, while the more domestically focused British mid-cap FTSE 250 index hit its highest level since February, and UK small caps hit a record high. The Stoxx 50 added 0.17%, and Germany's DAX gained 1.26%. The Brexit deal adds to an end-of-the-year bullish mood in markets as investors have looked beyond a spike in new COVID-19 cases globally and rising unemployment to the hope that vaccines and more fiscal spending will help spur an economic recovery in 2021. The sterling added another 0.6%, close to its highest level in 2 years. And analysts say that still, the pound's 5% rally since early November means that much of the Brexit relief has been priced to the currency. And the German and Italian markets are closed for Christmas Eve. And in Asia, stocks closed mostly high on Thursday, with shares of Chinese tech giant Alibaba in the spotlight following reports that Chinese regulators will probe the firm for suspected monopolistic behavior. Alibaba's shares in Hong Kong fell 8.13%. Meanwhile, the markets in Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore closed early for Christmas Eve. South Korea's Kospi led gains among the region's major markets as it jumped 1.7% to 2,806.8. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 gained 0.54%, closing at 26,668.3, while the Topix index advanced 0.51% to 1,774.27. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index was 0.16% higher at 26,386.56. Stocks in mainland China lagged as they closed lower, with the Shanghai Composite falling 0.57% to 3,363.1, while the Shenzhen Component was down 0.71% to 13,915.57. Meanwhile, shares in Australia climbed, with the S&P ASX 200 up 0.33%. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average pointed to an opening gain of about 100 points, while S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures were also trading in positive territory. The S&P 500 finished Wednesday's session little change, rising less than 0.1% after sliding in the final minutes of trading. Still, the benchmark index managed to snap a three-day losing streak. The Dow gained 114.3 points, or 0.38%, after rising more than 270 points at one point during the session. The Nasdaq Composite hit a record high before erasing those gains and closing 0.29% lower. Away from those numbers now, talks between the UK and the EU on a post-Brexit trade agreement are ongoing amid reports that a deal is expected to be unveiled today. Negotiators in Brussels are set to be trying to finalize details on fishing quotas, which have proved to be an obstacle to reaching an agreement during months of talks. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to speak to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on the phone today, after which a press conference is then expected to follow. The deal document is thought to be around 2,000 pages long, with both sides having until December the 31st, when the UK leaves the EU trading rules, to get it approved by parliamentarians. Meanwhile, the UK has banned travellers from South Africa from coming into the country amid concerns over a variant of COVID-19 linked to the African country. Now, people who have been in or transited through South Africa in the last 10 days will not be allowed into the UK. However, the new rule will not apply to British and Irish nationals, but they'll have to self-isolate.
Two cases of another new variant of coronavirus here in the UK. Both are contacts of cases who have travelled from South Africa over the past few weeks. This new variant is highly concerning because it is yet more transmissible and it appears to have mutated further than the new variant that's been discovered in the UK. We've taken the following action. First, we are quarantining cases and close contacts of cases found here in the UK. Second, we're placing immediate restrictions on travel from South Africa. And finally, and most importantly, anyone in the UK who has been in South Africa in the past fortnight, and anyone who is a close contact of someone who's been in South Africa in the last fortnight, must quarantine immediately. Across the country, cases have risen 57% in the last week. There are 18,943 people in hospital with coronavirus right now. That's almost as many as there were at the peak. It is therefore necessary to put more of the east and southeast of England into Tier 4. We're also taking action in parts of the southwest, where there are some early signs of the new variant and where cases are rising. I sincerely hope.
Meantime, the UK government has announced that Rwandan exporters will continue to access the markets duty-free even after the country has exited the European Union. Under the current arrangement, Rwandan exporters have been exporting to EU markets without paying duties on many products due to the generalized scheme of preferences. The scheme makes it easier for traders from developing countries to export their products to the European Union. This is done in the form of reduced tariffs for their goods when entering the market. The government, or the UK government rather, said it will introduce its GSP scheme on January the 1st, 2021, under which developing countries like Rwanda will continue to access duty-free markets of the UK. Rwandans mostly export vegetables, fruits, flowers and chili to the UK market, among other products. Now, Christmas hampers and decorations are an integral part of the Christmas celebration. Here in Nigeria, hampers are not only very scarce this year, but the contents have shrunk. Also, the streets that are typically lit with Christmas decorations are mostly bare this year. Now, this is the focus of our conversation on the Commodities Market Update today with a senior analyst at the financial derivatives company, Fisayomi Folashade. Good afternoon, Fisayomi. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start with...
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, let's start with what has happened to the culture of celebration and pageantry. What are the implications of this on the Nigerian economy and the price of hampers?
So 2020 is a completely different year. Global economic activities have been brought to a halt by a virus, and the last time we've seen a virus of this kind was 101 years ago. So it is very true that Christmas hampers are not flying around like they used to, and Christmas decorations are not elaborate compared to what we've seen in 2019. Take, for instance, the streets of Ajose Adiogun that used to be lit up with Christmas decorations are bare this year. So a lot of activities have impacted Christmas celebration this year. Let's take a look at what has happened so far this year. The crude oil price shock, the pandemic, and then the lockdown. And presently, Nigeria is in recession. So all these things has led to reduction in consumers' purchasing power. And so people are moving now and shifting from buying goods of luxury goods to things that are of necessity. So there's a shift from luxury goods to things of good necessities now. So also the prices of, So
Go
the
ahead.
prices of ampers has also increased. We've seen a high increase in the prices of ampers. Take, for instance, the ampers that we purchased for about 30,000 naira last year has increased to about 45,000 naira now. So all this also has led to the increase in the prices of ampers this year.
So I was just going to say that you've mentioned several challenges. Of course, the year 2020 has been a very challenging one for many. And then let's talk about what happened in the fourth quarter here in Nigeria, talking about the NSAS protests, the second wave of COVID cases and new restrictions on social gatherings. What are the economic implications of these policies on growth, inflation and unemployment?
So fourth quarter of every year we always see an increase in economic activities, right? The fourth quarter of every year we see is also regarded as the festive season where we celebrate the Ramadan, the Christmas and all that. The fourth quarter is also regarded as the harvest season. We see a lot of harvest during that period. So yes, it is very true that this Christmas season this year, there's not increase in level of activities as it used to be. We've seen reduction in the level of activities this year. So just now that in 2020, we are seeing a slight difference. There's a slight change to what Christmas used to be and what Q4 used to be. We've seen COVID this year, we've seen the pandemic, and just when the economy is recovering from that pandemic, then the backlog of the NSAS protest, the increase in price of oil, the foreign exchange volatilities and all that. So this has led to, disruption in economic activities, and we'll project that GDP growth this year will further contract to about -4%. And also we'll see another increase in inflation rising to about 15% compared to 12% we saw last year. This will also lead to the increase in unemployment rate this year due to the lootings of business and private and public businesses during the NSAS protest. So we'll see a lot of this Q4.
Now, let's do a bit of forward looking now. We know that many world leaders and at least 5 million people have been vaccinated. If and when the vaccine is available in Nigeria, how do you think that this will affect the upcoming celebrations like Easter in 2021, for instance?
So it is good news that the vaccines are coming into Nigeria. It's it will give people the joy that they will not be infected, or they will not. There's no spread of the virus, just like what we've seen in the earlier year. So it's a good news that now we are seeing vaccines coming into Nigeria. But then we have to consider the time frame of when the vaccines will come into Nigeria and when other people will get vaccinated. There's a process by which the front line health workers will get vaccinated first, then the people with chronic illness as well. So the time frame is what we should consider now. But then if people can, strictly adhere to the policies and the guidelines of the COVID-19, we'll see a reduction in the spread of the virus, and there will also be increase in the level of economic activities. So we'll see a merrier Easter than what we are seeing in this Christmas.
I'm sure that's what everyone looks forward to. Many thanks, Senior Analyst at the FDC, Fisayomi Folashade, and do have yourself a wonderful Christmas celebration.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be talking about Ghana's economy when we come back shortly. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Last week, the Ghanaian Statistics Office released the country's Q3 GDP data showing a second consecutive contraction of 1.1% compared with a contraction of 3.2% in the second quarter. Now, Ghana is struggling to rebound from the impact of the virus-related slump as many businesses remain shut. Now, the outcome of the recent election, which is being contested by the opposition party, is also of major concern to many. The managing partner at Bespoke Business Consulting in Ghana, Mr. Alabi John Kennedy, joins us now to talk about these issues. Good afternoon, Mr. John Kennedy. Thank you for joining us on the program and compliments of this season. Now, let's get into this conversation by getting your reactions to the Q3 GDP data. Did this come to you as a surprise?
Well, I'm not really surprised because normally we make projections, and if the governments are able to work towards it, then you can achieve it. However, when these figures were turned out, we accepted it and felt that there's need for the government to do more. Currently, we are looking at high increase in commodity products, which also actually affected the GDP over the third quarter. And currently, the political landscape is a bit shaky, and it's also affecting the economy as a whole. So basically, I'm not surprised this is the result.
Political stability is a very important element in the sustainability of any economics. How has the result of the elections shaped the Ghanaian economy since its announcement?
Well, it's a bit challenging right now because this is the first time where the main opposition party and the ruling party has almost the same number of parliament members in the parliament house, plus an independent person separating those two. So it's actually highly contestable, and it's a bit shaky right now. The Ghana Electoral Commission has tried as much as possible to make sure things are well in place to address all these issues. So basically, investors are being patient. They don't want to come in now to do any investment. Neither are they looking at cashing out because it's a bit shaky right now. But by and large, I'm sure that everything will be, goes on.
Now, a meeting was held earlier this week admonishing all participating countries to uphold the status and the standards operating procedures of the EFCFTA, as this will, of course, determine the success or its failure. But how prepared is Ghana for the takeoff on January the 1st?
Basically, various organizations, various companies are trying to put their house in place to make sure they are well placed to partake in this program. The Secretary General, Mr. Mene, has also advised and admonished businesses, countries as well, to make sure that they don't put bottlenecks to prevent the success of the AFCTA. The basic thing right now is for businesses to be well positioned to take advantage of this program. However, the Bespoke Business Consulting tried as much as possible to set things in place to help businesses who want to take charge of this. Basically, in the West Africa region and in South Africa, we have one office in Joburg right now, and we set up one in Lagos to provide advisory services related to transaction and trade for businesses who are looking at going into the AFCFTA program.
Now, just before I let you go, no doubt 2020 has been a very challenging one for many countries, of course, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But going into the new year 2021, what's your outlook for the Ghanaian economy?
The outlook is not that bad. We are looking at least within 2.5 3% growth. That will be determined by the strategies the economic planners are able to put in place between January and March. But there's hope. We pray that the surge in the COVID-19 wouldn't affect West Africa and indeed Ghana itself, so that the economy can pick up and businesses will be able to thrive within this period. So it's hopeful that things will change a bit.
I would like to thank you, Managing Partner at Bespoke Business Consulting in Ghana, Alabi John Kennedy. Thank you for speaking with us this afternoon, and do have yourself a wonderful Christmas celebration.
All right, very nice.
Into other stories now, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has provided Egypt with $12 million to support the tourism sector. A statement from the ERBD explains that the loan is targeted towards the development of some hospitality projects expected to address significant inclusion gaps in relation to youth unemployment and skills mismatch. More than 300 jobs are expected to be directly created, as well as viable projection routes from training into employment for at least 250 young people. Egypt is a founding member of the ERBD. Since the start of the bank's operations in 2012, the ERBD has invested over €7 billion in more than 125 projects in the country. Let's talk about oil prices now. They extended gains today as a drawdown in the U.S. stockpiles of crude and gasoline lifted demand hopes, while investors also were cheered by potential Brexit trade deal. Brent crude futures climbed 0.4% to $51.40, and U.S. WTI crude futures also rose 0.4% to $48.30 a barrel in early trade. Both contracts gained more than 2% on Wednesday. Data from the Energy Information Administration shows U.S. crude inventories fell by 562,000 barrels in the week to December the 18th to 499.5 million barrels. Oil prices also drew support from news that Britain and the European Union were on the cusp of striking a narrow trade deal, swerving away from a chaotic finale to the Brexit split. Still, investors remain jittery about the recovery of oil demand as a more contagious variant of the coronavirus that is quickly spreading across Britain prompts countries to shut their borders to the UK. And gold prices steadied on Thursday as investors balance elevated U.S. jobless claims that undermined a nascent economic recovery with U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to veto a longer-awaited stimulus bill. Spot gold was little changed at $1,872.60 an ounce after climbing as much as 1% in the previous session. U.S. gold futures fell 0.1% to $1,877. Gold has gained more than 23% this year, largely driven by its appeal as a hedge against inflation and currency debasement in the wake of unprecedented stimulus measures unveiled to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. And that's where we end today's program. Thank you for watching. I am Bisi Adebayo.